we need to get together and let our voices be heard.
This is Buffalo What's Next. I'm Jay Moran.
I'm Bridget Jaipal Valenza.
I'm Dave Debo.
And I'm Thomas O'Neill White.
After May 14th, how can we afford not to talk about race?
About education, about segregation, about humanity.
Since the dawn of this nation, racial violence has existed.
The way we have designed our society has a big hand in what occurred in that Tops Market.
The suburban area, everywhere. We must work and teach our children.
We need to make sure that we put more funding in our programs that help prevent gun violence and more money into art.
If we're going to have some real healing, we've got to have space to tell some uncomfortable truths.
On today's program, we're talking with Marvin Askew. He's the executive director of the Buffalo City Ballet. Hi, Marvin.
Hi, how are you?
Great, and thanks for coming in and joining us. There's a lot of elements to this that are interesting. I want to get into the City Ballet and what you guys are doing and who you teach, but I want to talk just a little bit about your personal story to start things off here. Take us back to a teenaged Marvin Askew and how he ended up getting into ballet.
Teenage Marvin Askew. Wow. I started dancing at Clinton Junior High School at that time. Well, now it's called Buffalo Performing Arts, but Clinton Junior High. I was a 13, 14-year-old kid that had no rhythm whatsoever.
Okay, wow.
No, that's the honest truth.
Okay.
Wanted to play basketball. We had a couple of guys that were, at that time were superstar, and I wanted to be like them. And I was told, I couldn't dribble very well, I couldn't shoot very well, and so I was told, well, if you take dance, it'll help you out with your footwork.
Okay.
And then I had people who was telling me, yeah, just like the football player, like Lynn Swan, from Pittsburgh Ballet, and he was taking secret ballet lessons and helping with his athletic ability, with the team. So I figured, okay, I'm going to do this, So me and 14 other boys, from the community went there, and we were taking class, and then we got in there and
you went to Buffalo City Ballet.
No, at this time
this is at school.
It wasn't Buffalo. Yeah,
okay.
It was just at the school, but the instructor, who was Carl Singletary, at that time was developing, the Buffalo Inner City Ballet.
I gotcha.
And so he would bring, his young female dancers, to the school with him, as where they would. He would use them as example, to demonstrate what the movement is, and then we would have to follow them, And then of course, we were like, wow, these beautiful young, black girls, of course, all 14 of us, like fighting over, I'm gonna get to meet that one,
Sure.
And so, we'll get into the stretch class, and just being on the floor working out with the young ladies, and I started realizing that this is something that I can do. And so as the time went on, I became very skilled in terms of partnering and learning how to lift the girls, how to turn them the proper way, how to hold them on balance.
Did you have any interest in ballet before this?
No, none whatsoever.
And probably most of your friends didn't either.
No.
Okay.
But like I said, we would get in there, and so the instructor would tell us, just think of you got a basketball in your hand, and you switching from side to side, learning how to work the balance of the ball. Well, you have to do the same thing with the girl.
Wow.
So we put our hands, between the girl waist. So if it's too far right, you got to pull her left. So realize, oh, okay, it's just the same mechanics.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
And so we started doing that, and I became very skillful in that. So whenever I got a chance to partner up with a girl, it was easy. I would get in there and start spinning her and kept her on her center, and and so every time a production or something like that would come up, I had the young ladies coming to me. Oh, they'll stand next to me because they wanted me to be their partner, because they realized that
you could do it.
Mm-hmm. And so that's when I realized, okay, I can do this. And after a while, I was getting invites from various schools that were willing to have me come in to dance with the girl, and they would pay me $500 to $1,000, for a weekend to perform. And I realized, oh, I can make some money at this,
Nice.
instead of me being at the local supermarket, carrying somebody's bag of grocery for a few bucks.
Right. And so, just to take us back then, so we're talking about in the 70s in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
What was life like for a teenager who was growing up in the city of Buffalo?
It was rough. I grew up in Tauber Mall at that time. That's on Jefferson and Clinton. And there was a lot of gang violence, not like you see today.
Okay.
But we had them too, where that, young, black males running around with guns and stuff like that. It was the threat of shooting you,
Mhm.
but no one ever really pulled the trigger.
Gotcha.
So compared to now, as far as gun violence, you had young gang members. If they were firing the gun, most likely they were firing up in the air, to scare you.
Right.
But even at that time, the thought, so I made a pledge to myself, if I ever have the opportunity to leave that situation, I'm going to, And so through dance was the best way, And I, after graduating from high school, I won several scholarships to American Ballet Theater and New York City Ballet, and took those opportunities to go to New York and study, even further, and being in same room, like in the same classroom with superstars like Mikhail Brezhnev, and you see Rudolf Nureyev or, Fernando Bujonas, you were just like, wow, I want to be like that, So then I start doubling my class, so I was taking anywhere between 2 to 3 classes a day, 6 days a week, just to get to close to that level,
How many black men were training to dance back then?
Not many. And if you were black and you were in dance, you were often pushed to go to Dance Theater of Harlem.
Oh, okay.
At that time in the 70s with either Dance Theater of Harlem or Alvin Ailey. And those are the two major black dance company out of New York. And so if you were black, you either went to one of those two,
All right.
But because of my style of training, the Russian training, and I had all these Russian instructors, and so I felt that I could compete with most white dancers in terms of white companies. So I didn't want to be targeted, just because you were a black dancer, you had to go there.
Sure. Sure.
So, which I did audition for Dance of Harlem, and the director, Arthur Mitchell, told me basically, I have to retrain you, and I was like, at that time I didn't understand exactly what he meant by retraining me, but I think he meant retraining me for that particular style that he wanted me to perform with that company. And I felt, well, my training was better than that style of dance, so I'm going to take my chance with one of the major white companies. So from that Friday, audition with Dancer Hall, I went to Pittsburgh and auditioned that Monday and got the job there. And so then I knew, and felt comfortable where I was in terms of, my style of training.
So you spent a lot of time as a professional, full-time ballet dancer in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So obviously,
I was the first black member of Pittsburgh Ballet.
Wow.
And even that was rough, because what I realized was that, even though you were good, you weren't going to get the opportunity. Now, I did get one good opportunity where we were doing the Elvin Ailey River, and the lead dancer, principal dancer, had a foot injury. And so they didn't know what to do. So all the dancers were like, oh, wow, because you needed somebody who was a jumper and a turner. and I had possessed both of those skills. So a lot of the dancers were like, well, let Marvin do it, and so the director of the company at that point in time, Pet Wild, go, no, because the whole thing be, in terms of being black, so the person who came in to set the production just kind of looked around the room and said, okay, this is what I need. Who can do this? So myself and about 3 other guys, took the part, and at the end, she goes, I want him to do it. So I got to do the lead,
Nice.
and got very good reviews in the paper, and it wasn't until and I realized, in terms of the director, she wasn't quite happy with it, but she accepted it, but that's all that counts.
So you have a nice career going there, but you're commuting, you're spending your weekdays and weeknights in Pittsburgh, but your family's back here in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I would drive home every weekend, so after, unless there a week of production, I would drive home every weekend, leave right after Friday night rehearsal back in Buffalo within 4 hours, and then I would get up early that Monday morning, drive back, get back, in time of, the first class and rehearsal, by 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And I did that for a couple of years, and it was rough.
Yeah. You had to make a personal, professional decision then.
Yeah, I had two. Actually, at that time, I only had one son, so I had to make a decision, and so I felt, well, I need to come back home, help raise him, and during that time period, I got received another contract from Missouri Ballet, and they were willing to hire me as a principal dancer, and then my wife realized, okay, she's pregnant again.
Wow. Wow.
So I had to make a choice, take that contract or family. So I decided family was over the contract.
You stayed here in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I took over the school.
Yeah, Buffalo City Ballet. So what about the Buffalo City Ballet? How many kids? Tell me about the kids that are there.
We when I first took over the school, it was a 60-40 ratio, 60 white, 40 black, over the years, that has reversed. Now it's 90% black, 10% white.
90% black from the city of Buffalo?
From the city of Buffalo.
Wow.
And so the thing that I'm always concerned is giving young black girls an opportunity, to at least learn, how to learn about classical ballet, and what it takes to become a ballerina, and it's rough, I mean, it's rough. Any African-American dancer, in terms of dance, is going to have a hard life in terms of dance, unless you have someone that's going to take you under your wing, and even if not just black dance, but even if you're white,
Okay.
The most successful dancer always have someone that is backing them financially, because you can't really live off what your basic salary, so you need someone that's going to get you to and from all audition classes, pay for your accommodation, up until you become either a soloist or a principal dancer, But even I see with even a lot of core member dancers, they're from very wealthy families who's paying their rent still and paying, or they're contributing to, the ballet companies, and in return, those ballet companies keep them on payroll.
Okay.
Because of the contribution they're getting from those families.
Wow.
So that's something that happens quite frequently.
So that's not generally happening to your students then, obviously, right?
No. But what I provide for them is, pretty much tuition free, so they can come and take class, basically at no cost at all, what little fee that I may, charge, is maybe for like point shoes, to cover those costs, or keeping costume clean, or having, to provide new costumes, or,
Right.
But what they learn, is basically, how to work together, building up their self-esteem that, yes, I can do this. We don't turn away. Excuse me. Even if it's a child that has a weight problem, we don't turn them away, because we want to build, even their self-esteem up to feel that I can do this too, And
do you see that? Do you see that then out of these young women that are like that?
Yeah.
You see that they're getting there's a change in them. Like you said, maybe if there's a weight problem involved.
Yeah. Even I have a few come in, and we go and put them in a tutu, and we go, okay, that tutu is not going to close, because. So we have to design something, what we call an insert, in the back of the panels that widen out so that child can fit into that costume, So you have to be creative,
right?
Where that a lot of schools not going to do that,
Gotcha.
Because
you find a way.
If you don't fit the costume, if you don't fit that mold of what a dancer should look like, they're not even going to look at you or consider you.
Wow.
So
they're getting opportunities through your school.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Marvin Askew is our guest this morning. He is the executive director of the Buffalo City Ballet. You got into it there a little bit about self-esteem, but and we cannot kind of guess at the physical benefits of being able to dance and stretch and the flexibility. But what about the art of it? How can you describe that and what a student would get from understanding how to perform ballet?
Well, what you get is, for example, ballet is a syllabus, so every step has a name, and, so you have to learn how to execute that step, And so what I try to drive into each child is that, if you know the basic and understand the syllabus, everything else will work itself out, So, and I'll use this, I often, start off with the first thing they walk in the classroom is learning what a plie is, And, so I would tell them, plies mean bending of the knee. Now, you don't have to be a dancer to understand. Everyone is, through their life is doing what we call a plie. You're going upstairs, downstairs,
Okay.
you're bending your knees. You're walking, you're bending your knees.
Right.
So it's just your placement. So you have 5 basic positions that you have to learn, and you learn those 5 basic positions. And within, if you take the first position, it's basically, heel to heel with your toes expanding outward from your body. You stand straight up, bend your knees. Try to bend your knees, but don't take your heels off the floor. Now you're in a half plie. Now, take your heels off the floor and go all the way down. You're in a full plie. So it's getting them to understand that, and what every movement means. Tendus, means to stretch. So you're stretching your legs from your hip bone all the way down to your toe without bending your knees. And when kids learn all, how to execute those steps, and I go through it with them every day. I see them, and I test them on that, And before we even start actually doing movement, what does this mean, And they got to tell me right off,
You seem like such a nice, easygoing guy. I have this hard time picturing you being this demanding ballet instructor. Well, how would you describe your instruction?
Well, I'm more of a father figure.
Okay.
With the kids, because they call me Mr. Marvin.
All right.
Over the years, it's always Mr. Marvin, Mr. Marvin, Mr. Marvin, you know. And but and sometimes I have this look, you know. I would go in and I would look at him like a father, like, what are you doing? You know, you know, just give him that look like, no. And then they'll look at me like, I'm sorry. And then they'll throw out what it really means, and say, okay, I thought you knew what that step means. Why are you doing this? You know, so that's the way I kind of operate.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
You know, and
was
some
that how
cases,
your teachers were?
No, I know I had these little old Russian teachers that would look at me in the eye and go, "You're never going to be anything." And so I would look back at them like, "Yeah, okay, I would prove you wrong." You know, but that's over the years how, you know, I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, they were just pure mean teachers.
Wow.
You know, and their job was, you know, they walk in the classroom was, okay, what young lady I'm gonna make cry today? Wow. You know, and that's the way they operate.
Wow.
You know, so you always have some ballerina cry. You know, and as a guy, we used to go in the class and go, all right, who's going to be today? Take bets. You know? You know? But that's the way, you know, but, you know, over the years, things have changed. You know, you can't be that way with kids.
Right.
You know, I mean, I often say this is a sue nation. Everybody ready to sue you. You know, if you know cruelty, you're being mean. You know, so I try to find, you know, I don't know if maybe I mellowed out over the years, you know, after having kids and, you know, and now grandkids, and, you know, realize, you know, that, you know, you got to find a way to reach them without being mean.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So I would go into the classroom and, you know, I get my point across to the kids, but then at the time I make it very enjoyable for them to be in the classroom, you know. And I mean, I get down on the floor and I act sometimes just as silly as they do, but then I got to reel them back in. Okay, let's get serious now, you know. But you know, they're ready to run up to you and hug, and you know, especially now after the pandemic, I'm like, no,
Right,
you know, and being older, and you know, so you know, I try not to get too close, and you know, and then as a male teacher now, you know, with all the things that's going on in the country, you know, it used to be a time where you're in the classroom and you could touch the student, you grab the legs and put your legs up and everything, you know, you can't do that now.
Gotcha.
You know. Whenever I'm instructing, I'd never shut the doors. Parents can come in and see exactly how I'm working with the kids. You know, I'm not screaming at them. I make it very joyful for them, you know, to be there. And I don't touch. You know, and I used to have this intimidating stick that I used to thump on the floor, but I don't even use that.
You moved on from that?
Yeah.
Well, how many boys are you typically teaching?
Well, right now I have 2 boys.
Okay.
You know, up until the pandemic hit, I had about 5 boys that I was working with, and we went for almost 2 years of no classes, of shutting down, and you know, most of the kids have, you know, gained weight, or you know, the boys are older now, and you know, are kind of into different things, and you know, and now they, you know, don't want to do it because now they fell behind. Well, you know, like pretty much all the kids, you know, and I think that not just, you know, our school, but I realized in terms of a lot of other schools, dance schools in the area, lost a lot of students.
Sure.
You know, because of the pandemic, you know, and kids that were doing very well, you know, sat out almost 2 years. And that's the one thing about dance, you can't sit 2 years out.
Right.
You know, there's just no way you can come back, and you know.
And you said you were taking 2 or 3 classes a day when you were in New York City.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
what you have to do if you're going to stay with it.
Right.
What about? All right. So I have a son in the city of Buffalo, and he's looking for something to. I want my son to have an activity to do, and I'm thinking, I'm probably not a lot of fathers are thinking ballet. What are you telling them? What are you telling those parents?
Well, you know, like the I have some fathers that came in and, you know, and asked, you know, but they're not sure because it's still stigma that you have to, break, in terms of when it comes down, dancing doesn't make you gay. I went through that for many years, where that, like I said, I started with 14 boys,
Right.
14 of us. And we all started dropping out one by one because they were thinking, well, if I share, people may think I'm, gay and, and I realized, dancing doesn't do that to you. Either you're born that way or, I have a brother that danced. He was gay, and I think that kind of helped me understand the whole thing. And so I recall even before I got married, I had girlfriends that I was dating, and then all of a sudden they just dropped out of the picture, and I couldn't understand why. I come back home, and they didn't want to see me anymore. Well, they thought I was gay, So years later, after I get married, they're asking me, well, I thought you were gay. That's the reason why I broke it off. I was like, well, why do you think that? I mean, wouldn't it be better you just ask me?
Right. Right.
But
But that's still something that you deal with, though.
That's something I still not
but
personally.
I mean, but I'm saying
yeah.
I'm you now. This is you on the shoes on the other foot, so to speak.
Right.
You now have to explain this to others.
To like fathers,
Right.
who that want their sons to take dance, but then they're like, I'm not sure. In the building that we're in now, we have a boxing club on the 3rd floor. And some of the boys, they come down with the interest, like, I want to try, but then, they're in question, that if I come down here and take class, then everybody else is upstairs going to think something different,
okay,
So,
right.
And I just say to them, well, just think about it, if you're comfortable in terms of who you are, then you shouldn't have no problem with that,
Right.
And that's the best thing you can do, but it's still that same old problem with fathers, and once the boys get, between, it's okay for them to take dance, between 3 and roughly about 9 or 10, but then once they get over 10, the fathers no longer, they pull them out.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We're coming down to our final moments here, but I do want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, your theater, it's on Leroy,
307 Leroy,
right here in Buffalo. You just moved over there. How did the transition go for you?
It was rough. We were, like I said, we were in the Tri-Main. One of the reasons why we moved from the Tri-Main was they brought in another ballet school in the building, and we were at odds with each other. We were basically doing the same old thing. People were getting confused, And I understand, the owner, I mean, it's business with him in terms of rent, and so with all the problem that was going on, I said, well, I think it's time for us to move, And every time I would try to come up with a new way of doing things, it got botched, and some, because of being in the building. So we went to 307 Leroy. That was basically, the building was really in bad condition, So the owners came in and did, some basic repairs and stuff like that. Once we moved in, the pandemic hit, and so I was unemployed, and all of my unemployment check went into fixing up parts, of the building, interior, in terms of the studio, laying out the bars, the mirrors, and on the 2nd floor, I put in a small theater we call the Inbox Theater, fully equipped with I built the stage personally, put the lights up, sound system, next door it has a cafe, so during intermission, where patrons can go and have coffee or, snacks, and then the kids have a game room, so whenever they're waiting on parents or they have free time, they can go up in the game room and play. We and then we were able to convert the main studio to small in terms of having small events. For something like Claire Tea Party, which is coming up on December 4th. We can rent the hall out to for like small wedding reception and things like that.
Right.
So it gave us more opportunity to expand. Beyond just teaching the dance, classes to kids. Now we can rent the little theater, to young dancers who don't have a home to perform, or a lot of kids are into poetry, and so we have a place where if you're just starting, you could come in for very few bucks, $100, $200, to rent the space for a week. It's available.
And when you said, when you're waiting on parents, you told me the story before, and I hope you don't mind sharing it with our listeners, but on May 14th of this year, you were at school waiting on parents, and you very likely would have been going to Tops.
Right. And because of those parents were late picking up, with like one or two parents were late picking up their child, I would probably have been at that store on that day,
At that time.
Yeah. And it was just, I guess, luck was on my side, to be delayed. And I got in the car and heard about it because I was on my way to that top. And when I heard, I said, okay, well, I guess I'm heading straight home from there,
Right.
So.
And you live in the neighborhood?
I lived in the neighborhood for over 25 years, and it's just a block away from, that Tops Market.
How are things in the neighborhood right now?
I still think people are feeling the pain, people are still angry, I do believe, things will get better. I feel very sure of that. But for me, whenever I go down, you still have that in the back of your head every time you enter the store.
Right.
Because I still, have that feeling when I go there. Even though they upped security, but you still just have that feeling when you walk in.
Yeah. You guys are going to have your Nutcracker performances at the theater on Leroy Avenue, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's not our standard production. Our standard production we usually do at Buffalo Academy for Visual Performing Arts. So like I said, we built a box theater, so it's a scaled down version. So
Like 16 by 16, right? Is that right?
16 by 19.
16 by 19. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
And so we had scaled down the sets to that. Now, the only difference is that when you're in a full theater, you don't get to see all the stuff that happens behind the theater. The changing of the sets and the scenery, the lights, and Well, here you get to feel all that and see all that.
Wow.
So you get to see how the show's actually put together without the curtain closing.
Sure.
And I found people really enjoy that, because they never, saw all the things that goes on in between, So it's a nice little intimate experience, for families.
And that's coming up in December, right?
We're doing it 2 weekends because we only could see max about 30 people per show.
So a very intimate gathering, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's December 10th and 11th.
Right.
So 2 shows on Saturday, 1 show on Sunday, and then the following weekend, the 17th and 18th.
Nice. And open to the public. Anybody wants to come?
Anybody, yep.
Can come on and check it out.
Yes.
What will they see? What give your sales pitch? And what makes it a special moment?
Well, what makes it a special moment, like I said, is to come in and feel the. It has a nice feeling in terms of Christmas, because, and especially, the one scene, everybody loved it, the snow scene, the lighting effects, and with the snow just floating down, and and I think they get more fun out of the kids' reaction than because the kids are looking up. They're supposed to be on stage performing, but they're up looking at the snow falling down, and it's like, wow, whoa, and so the parents are laughing, like, because they get a real kick out of it,
Sure.
So it's a nice, like I said, intimate, enjoyable scene, and so I say, come out and experience that with us.
See what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, and somebody wanted more information, a website to go to?
They can go to the website, which is buffalocityballet.org.
Okay.
Or
All
they
right.
could just call 716-833-1243.
All right. Very good. And Marvin Askew is the executive director of Buffalo City Ballet. Thanks very much for joining us on Buffalo What's Next.
Thanks for having me.
This is Buffalo What's Next, where we have conversations with the community about moving forward. To have your voice heard, press the Talk to Us button on the WBFO app, and we'll work to get your questions and comments on the air. Join us on Twitter @WBFO or email us at news@WBFO.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
Hello, I'm host Thomas O'Neill White, and with me today to talk the arts and the Buffalo Braves is artist and MC Chae Hawk, and also artist, writer, and archivist Kevin Ryan. Chae and Kevin, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I have to correct you. It's Chae.
Chae.
When you mention the artist, it's Chae, bro.
Chae. So, Chae, I described you as an MC. Do I have the right of it, or are MCs and artists one and the same?
Well, that's the Broadway Joe's days. The MC. I call myself a progressive rap cinema artist. That's the genre.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, we've been focused on our media and how we present our story through, very top-notch production quality, thanks to my peers. So, that's the progressive rap cinema aspect of it.
Now, I want to play a clip that you have. You've got a song called WNY, and we're gonna play that right now. Jay, drop that, please.
Yeah, from the silent, my city where I sing, making moves, gotta get it for the team. New York, I just gotta shine. New York, kinda type of mind. New York State, we reppin', little different something. We Western, we just out here bustin', out here getting.
That's a track from 2018, and obviously it's named WNY for Western New York. What were your feelings about the region then, and have they changed at all to this current day?
Well, WNY is the working title. We're thinking about calling it New York Western, but the beat was done by a producer by the name of Accent. He's in the Netherlands, and accompanying me on the track is my guy Sonny and Bless 3K, both out of Niagara Falls, and that was summer of 2018. I can only tell you about what was going on in my world at the time. So it was it was some special times, some growth times, but we're very proud of that record, and we plan to put it out top of 2023.
You've been making music coming on like 2 decades now. What got you into the art form?
To be honest with you, my peers, a special relationship with my guy BRB, Brendan Robert Boyd. He passed away when we were kids, but he was the biggest influence on me when it came to the music. Put me on to the Deftones and Korn. So it was that relationship, my peers, my father. He put me on the music as well. So.
What type of music did your father put you on to?
Jazz.
Same.
He liked to play jazz, Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah. Who are some of the artists you've worked with? I mean, this is a 20-year career, right? We're talking about.
Well, you know, if you know, you know. You know, I've kept it localized for quite some time, but I've been blessed to, you know, touch some bigger talents as well. But locally, I had the honor to work with Lance Diamond, the late great, homie Keith Buckley, John Salimi, Snapcase, Brother John. My guys right now, I'm really zoned in and focused on with Sonny and Bless 3K, so we're excited about that.
What's the importance of keeping it local, working with these local artists and building them up at the same time, building yourself up?
It's your foundation, you know. It's what you know. It's who you are. You know, it's definitely, you know, coming out of Western New York is icky, you know. So getting a perspective, I've been blessed to travel quite a bit, so it's kept my perspective sharp. But you know, to be local is your identity, man. You know, that's your story.
What's you described Western New York as icky. What's the region not doing that you see going on in other spots that you've traveled to?
It's not supporting your talents. It's not supporting the artists that, you know, are your neighbors, the people who keep the culture alive, make it what it is. You know, we're the real producers of bringing interest to this place. You know, there's a lot of unique energy now. Buffalo's changing. You know, a lot of developments, but you know, we need to figure out a way to get a nice little trickle down system. Some of those dollars to the creatives.
And that actually leads me to my next question. We've discussed numerous things in the last 20 years or so. You once described the region as a cultural wasteland. Now, some folks may take issue with that, but it's not necessarily a negative connotation. But what do you mean by cultural wasteland?
Love canal kisses, baby. You know, we're close to it. You know, physically present. My perspective of it is you know, the people, unique. There's definitely characters where we are. It's just we never had the correct outlet to express ourselves, you know. But I think time has come. Time is now.
So what's going to spur the revitalization of the arts in this region? How does that happen? Is it an issue of funding? Is it an issue of opportunity? Are those two things one and the same?
Well, no, we've been hibernating. So, you know, the past 4 years just been developing a lot of life experiences with my team and I, but, you know, we've been prepping for this. You know, we have the label Team Radio Records, so, you know, we merge what our belief systems are, you know, so we're pretty much a creative lifestyle record label that drives social impact through diversified brand collaboration. You know, we've thrown parties, we've thrown events in the city since, you know, 09, shine hard, but you know, the time is now. We're energized, tapped into the fall's current. We're charged up.
And that's in Team Radio. When did you start that up?
That was it started off as a song, you know, a song in 2005. You know, I gotta tip the hat to my father. He I played him a beat. It was an ill-toned beat. I played him a beat over the phone, and you know, asked him, what does it sound like? What does this remind you of? And he said, Radio Raheem, Do the Right Thing. So that put me back on Spike, and you know, watching the film, you know, and it's the D battery scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know, D,
mm-hmm.
D mother. D.
Yeah.
But it started as a song that it just merged into more, man. It just merged into a lifestyle. You know, us doing parties, events. And then it acted as like a protective barrier for me as I am and was maneuvering through the music business as well.
Talk to me about maneuvering through the music business. I mean, it's broken a lot of people. It's uplifted a lot of people. But what's been your experience, you know, navigating those waters?
Survival DNA, baby. You know, not getting tainted or jaded It's a passion thing, man. If you love something, when it's for you, it'll come. But I've been blessed to swim in the waters. It's tough if you disconnect for a second. You lost all that drive, that data, and then it's hard to start over. But I've been fortunate enough to stay with it, little by little from the sidelines. My guys, Sonny and Bless, they've been a huge support system for me for the past 5 years, just with their talent. We've been at it since 2012, the first teamwork event. We threw on Main Street. So, but survival, man.
Yeah, you're making music. You are, throwing parties, promoting parties. Are you also doing visual work?
Yeah, on the side, how I was able to make, some coins touches, being locations for film and television that came to town, and that spurred more of an understanding of the type of work I've always been doing. But now knowing how, if there's not much opportunity for you, you got to create it yourself. So that's a lot of where, a lot of what I've been doing for the past couple of years is putting some plans together.
We were just talking about the arts culture locally and the merging of the arts culture. But merging of the arts culture means there's a divide currently. Why is that? Why is there a divide? What do you see? What are you seeing out there?
Misunderstanding. A lot of people who have power, they're cheapskates, and they just think differently than creatives do. But now we're living in a time of cultural currency. The power of creativity in businesses is at the forefront. So I don't know. I think it just comes down to people coming together in the right rooms and fighting for a common cause. And obviously this platform, what happened on May 14th, that definitely made things a little bit realer for people, especially in our city. So, yeah.
Are you afraid that that cultural currency may become bastardized?
I don't think it can. Bastardized.
Why not?
There's always a home, there's always a place of identity wherever that spirit lies. It's just the voice box. It's just the zeitgeist. You got to ride the wave right. It's
navigating those waters.
You can't really explain the process to those who just don't really know. So
you are always talking about helping in your space, bringing up those who may not have an opportunity otherwise. These next generations of artists, what do they need to succeed? Especially those kids who come from disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds.
Yeah, it's got to be embedded in your DNA now. It's got to be your magic star, your passion chip. You got so many opportunities nowadays and so many distractions. You have to be multi-talented. So good luck.
What would you say to a 16-year-old who's trying to make their way as an artist on, maybe they're into music, maybe they're into visual arts. What's a piece of advice you'd give them?
Depends on what they got and what they look like.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, if they look like you.
If they look like me, what you got? So we move a little different. So I've given my time and energy to others for a long time, and now I gotta get selfish with it a little bit. Things have changed, in my world. I'm a father now, and I got a team now that's been believing in me, and I believe in them, and we've built this boat. Now we gotta ride it.
What would you tell your son? if he wanted to follow in your footsteps?
No comment right now.
Fair enough. Kevin.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to talk to you a bit about the archive that you're working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I sure can. I am helping Chris Barbera with archiving 30 years of materials for Jesus the Liberator's Seminary of Religious Justice. And what they do, how they started at the beginning, it was an organic process where the clergy, Hugh Pratt and Jimmy Rowe, they wanted to know how to bridge the east side, the west side. And the seeds that they sowed, it eventually evolved into outreach to prisons, and not just local prisons, but throughout the whole country. And archiving through these records, extraordinary amount of material that I've seen.
And so it's not just local, it's across the country.
Across the country.
What there's got to be some interesting stories in there.
Absolutely. One of the hiccups that we're finding right now is trying to make sure that we get release forms so that we don't put anybody's personal information out there. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be working with somebody through the state as well, hopefully, and we'll take it from there. But one example would be there is a collection just simply titled, it's a book in book format already, called Death Row Poetry by people who wrote poetry on death row.
Wow. Have you taken a look at that?
Yes, it's powerful.
What spurred you to do this?
Well, God bless Chris. Glory be to God and Chris, because being an artist, it's hard to earn money in the city and being true to your art form. And Chris and I met, and he also is a writer. And when we first met, we would explain each other the theology and different ideas of belief that we had. And then he knew that I was trying to write also in a theological aspect, and he asked me if I would help him because my previous work experience, coincidentally, was doing archival work.
Oh, okay.
And
all right.
The synergy there was perfect.
Excellent. What's in store for the both of you in the near future? Kevin, start me off.
I have been developing for the last 4 years now my own theology. It didn't even evolve into that, but it is this story of being a working class artist and creating that type of theology, but using the Cain and Abel story. And Enabling Cain is the working title I've been going with. Okay. And that's in my future.
Your religion is close to you.
It is, very much so, yes. I can say this firmly, and this is the beauty of what occurred here on May 14th, is the grace. And it is amazing grace. And I've sojourned in Jamaica for several years, and the grace that is on that island is amazing. Mm-hmm. And, me being a white person living in a black nation and then coming back to Buffalo, it's tricky because there's a serious divide in our city when it comes to segregation. And when I'm in Jamaica, I am embedded and living with, Jamaican family.
Mm-hmm. It's not like, over here, stay over there.
Everyone is mingling together. Those that are brave enough to leave the resort. And that's a whole other topic.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Jay, what's next for you, brother?
Showing some love and respect to my guy, Tim Wendell, author of Buffalo, Home of the Braves. He's throwing a little something at the History Museum this week, so I'm excited for that. His book is a wonderful piece. If you're a Braves fan, Clippers fan, lover of the NBA culture, it's been my Bible. So,
yeah, talk to me a little bit more about this this event. This is Wednesday. We're
Correct.
talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the Buffalo History Museum. Mm-hmm. It's focused on the Buffalo Braves. have you done work, not like with the Braves or the Clippers, but you're embedded with them a little bit, or with what's going on here?
Yeah, oddly enough, it spurred in like 2008. There was a management company that I was rocking with, and they made shirts, and a few people out there might still have it, but it was like the Buffalo Chae's Buffalo Braves theme. So it always stuck a little bit, but in 2013, there was a rough split musically, and in order to get my engine going, I just wanted to know more about the cultural divide and place that I call home. I wanted to learn a little bit more, so I came across some angles, some stories, one being the Buffalo Braves. So I just started doing some investigative work on that, and also the Color Musicians Club. There's a single out there, Dirty Rich, where I show love to the African American Heritage Corridor in that space. But I was just curious to understand the character and the temperament of the place, Buffalo, New York, and Braves has been one of those vehicles. And Tim's book, I got that many years back and ran through it 3 times with the highlighter, but it's been a beautiful source material, and I've been honored to meet with Tim several times, and cool to call him a friend. But he's gonna be doing his thing on Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Anything interesting from the book? I mean, I know a little bit about the Braves. I know at one time they had McAdoo, they had Ernie D, they had Randy Smith, and they had Moses Malone for about 2 days before trading him. But any interesting things that have come from the book?
Well, what I gather overall is that Buffalo had the opportunity of being a championship team in the late 70s, because they were putting something together. Coach Jack Ramsey as a coach, ownership questionable, but, it was new. It was new back then to a lot of people. They didn't know what the value, and obviously they didn't either, because, the next 2 years, if the Braves would have stayed, that's the Jordan, that's the Magic, that's the Bird, that's all that era. So that's when the NBA got hot. But, Randy, he's the cat that I was most attracted to. He's a triathlete. Went to Buff State.
Yes, Buff State.
So he was a superstar out there. So I've been inspired by him and his spirit. I was fortunate enough to run into a friend of his who also graduated with him, Derry Burns. He's been very dedicated to honoring his man Randy. So he's been on that mission, and I've been trying to assist him as well. But it looks like Buff State's going to honor him soon with the new soccer pavilion. So they're going to name it after Randy. But musically, creatively, the project that we're gonna release top of 2023 is a project called 2014-2016 that I've had on ice, but it was like my resurrection, if you could call that, of getting back on the scene, right? And the Braves, that theme resonates with me, So we want to do something special with Buff State. So we have some ideas, and we're definitely ready to honor Randy in a cool way. And but yeah, that conversation, basketball town, man. We're a basketball town, bro. You know it.
We are. Yep. So. Oh yeah. The last thing I wanted to ask both of you, and it's something I ask all my guests, and Chae, we'll start with you. What does Buffalo need? From where you're sitting, what does Buffalo need?
Better neighbors that care, need a little bit more of that. I think I'll just leave it at that.
All right. And Kevin?
Belief. And I got to give my propers to Chae on that, because he said, I heard him earlier in an interview say, what does Buffalo need? It's belief. And it's belief in each other. It's belief that we can get better. Belief that we'll get through it. Sky's the limit.
You are listening to Buffalo What's Next, our daily discussion on race, education, and other issues following the tragedy of 514. I'm host Thomas O'Neill White, and I want to thank my guests, Chae and Kevin Ryan, for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Praises and blessings.
You're listening to WBFO and WBFO HD1 Buffalo, WOLN Olean, and WUBJ Jamestown, your NPR station.